By now, you have seen the exchange today. The Tea Party leader behind that exchange speaking out here and only here. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and it's the confrontation that has now officially gone viral. The Iowa Tea Party leader taking the president to task.
What you said was,
You do realize that 90% of our computer is actually done by left-wing environmental radicals and not people like me.
That's reasonable. Balanced budget is reasonable. Where were you doing a balance here? I didn't appreciate it.
Stay strong, President. Stay strong. Stay strong.
The balanced budget amendment, he wasn't objecting to it almost at all.
Somebody has a balanced budget amendment. We can have that and nothing else.
It was surreal. With me now, the guy making waves from Iowa to Washington in his first nationally televised sit-down chat, Iowa Tea Party co-chair Ryan Rhodes. Ryan, very good to have you. Thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for having me on, Neil.
It seemed to get nasty. How did you feel in the middle of that? You were essentially talking back to the most powerful man on earth.
Well, I don't think it was nasty at all. I don't even think President Obama thought that. I mean, I think we went back and forth, and we agreed to we disagreed is what actually happened. So, but he spent the entire time talking about how the Republicans and how the other side essentially were unreasonable, and he even brought up other candidates running for president being unreasonable. But the fact is, people in his own party, from the top to the bottom, are sitting there calling us terrorists, calling us hostage takers, and saying that it's the Tea Party's fault that we lost our AAA bond rating. It's everyone else's fault but the leader of the free world. Well, if he's going to resort to blaming, then I want to know just why I deserve the blame.
All right, now, he was trying to defend the vice president here, that he never called that as the vice president. Tea Party's a terrorist in a closed-door meeting, that he might have been hearing that from other congressmen, but it wasn't coming from the vice president. Do you believe that?
Well, look, I took the Politico story and the other Democrats who came out and said that was what happened in the exchange, but they said it's like dealing with hostage takers, and that's the same thing as calling us terrorists. I mean, what they're doing is essentially trying to paint us in a light that that they think will be negative for the American people. You know, of all the people sitting here trying to hold us trying to actually stop the debate and be political about this and not actually fix the problem, I'm seeing the president not be able to put anything up, and the only thing he did put up lost 97-0. That was the left and the right.
But when you brought that up, and I noticed you brought that up, I can imagine being the president, you're weighing into the crowd. Normally these are fawning crowds for the most part, and you were clearly not like that, and the woman next to you not like that. Did you get a sense from his people or from maybe the president himself that they wanted to keep pushing down the line?
Well, when he decided to be done, he walked down the line, and it really wasn't that. I mean, you saw the whole exchange essentially,
right.
And we had our discussion. I think the music, it's tough to see in the music, but I mean, I was quiet for a little bit, and then it got heated, and I actually responded to somebody at the left of me when I turned over there, and they asked me, well, what does the Tea Party stand for? And I said limited government, and that's when they asked about the Bush years, and I said, look, I don't agree with some of the stuff that happened in the Bush years. I didn't appreciate Medicare Part D. I didn't appreciate the No Child Left Behind, which Obama has doubled down on with Race to the Top. We're only going to fix our education system, and we're only going to fix these things if we do it at a state level from the bottom up, not the top down. I think we can have those arguments at the state level with people much better than we can have them at the national level.
Ryan, what did you make of the president saying, as someone who's been called a socialist, not born here, taking away freedoms for providing health care, I'm all for lowering the rhetoric, that he knows from which you come and he's suffered it too?
Well, if you go back and look at some of the stuff, we had some instances in Iowa, and I've actually stood up and said at times when there were things that were inappropriate that were said, because I don't think that's representative, but then they continue to go out there and try to advance the rhetoric to try to gin up people, because it was obvious. The crowd was very lethargic, and there was even Obama supporters who were just not real happy with what's going on, and they need to figure out some way to re-energize that base of support. And that's really what he's going out and doing. These policies are not sitting well with the people.
Well, did you plan this then, Brian? I know critics of yours said that you were shouting him down as he was speaking. I don't know if that's true or not. And then that you planted yourself where you knew the press was going to shake hands, so you could make a media show of it. Is any of that true?
Well, I went to the event and I wanted to ask him a question. I didn't get the chance to ask him a question. I respectfully sat there for his entire speech, and up until the point where when I stood up to try to, make sure I was known, because he told a lady with a hat on that she was waving it around, so that's how to get seen. So I decided to stand up to be seen, and then he kind of just glossed over me, went to the next person, and I decided that I changed the question really that I was going to go in with, and I decided that it was time to ask him how he could spend the entire time essentially talking about being reasonable when people on his entire side of the aisle really aren't being reasonable with people like me. They're not willing to solve the problem. In one sentence, we could solve a significant amount. We will have a balanced budget. You could just say we're going to have a balanced budget. It's one sentence. And the entire Congress can vote on deciding that and hash out the details later. But they apparently don't want to do it.
He didn't respond in the affirmative to that. Did the Secret Service look like they were getting antsy? Were they?
From what I saw, the Secret Service, it was just one other thing. I think they realized I sat there, I stayed behind the hay bales, I did walk up to the line to talk to him again, but he invited me down there to talk to him again, and I took him at his word for that, and we had the exchange. And
what did you think of the fact that he did take you on exchange, that he did go back and forth with you?
Well, he was cordial. I mean, so I don't have anything to say really about that. I mean, we just simply disagree fundamentally on the direction of our country. I believe in a smaller government, and he believes in one that can control your health care, that can control corporations, and really goes down the list of things that are going to be a nanny state government.
But does it bother you on any level, Ron, this whole incident notwithstanding, you still had folks like John Kerry saying that this is the Tea Party downgrade that we suffered from S&P, that this was the Tea Party meltdown we had across Europe. Some prominent Democrats essentially saying that's the case. The Vice President of the United States, whether he called you terrorist or not, that you were holding this process hostage. That the Tea Party, at least the strategy seems to be on the part of the White House and maybe leading Democrats, is the reason why we are at loggerheads.
Well, when you go and try to demonize Middle America, people who decided to get active, and then sit there and say, well, don't you dare get active, because if you weren't active under Bush, you can't possibly be active without having some underlying terrible reason. Then that's a problem. I respect the other side for believing what they believe and fighting for it, but I think they should respect the fact that I'm going to come out here and I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to stand up, because we have to take this country back. We're going bankrupt, and there's nothing we can do about it unless we put our foot down.
Ryan Rhodes, thank you very much. Well, you're a gutsy guy, Ryan.